Theodore Roosevelt once said, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena."
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
Seize the day.
Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause.
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Who at best, if he wins, knows the thrills of high achievement. And if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Hi once again, everybody, and welcome back in. I'm Ed Berliner. This is Studio A, and this is the man in the arena. Thanks so much for joining us. There are those people who simply are the best there is at what they do. It makes no difference. It doesn't make a difference whether it's writing a book, whether it's being an athlete, whether it's being an actor, or being in music. Music has always been one of my passions, and one of my passions has always been great jazz. I mean, I was one of those kids that loved jazz when I was a kid. Nobody else could understand it because everybody was a rock and roller at that time. But I got into jazz. And as I got a little bit older, I found some of the great jazz performers, and I've been lucky because I've actually had the great chance to befriend some of the great jazz performers. And one of them is a guy who knows so many stories about not just jazz, but about the music scene in one specific area of the country where so much music was born. And this man is certainly one of the best there is at what he does. It is a pleasure to welcome into the man in the arena, that man right there who makes it all sound so good. Born in Caracas, Venezuela, now lives in Miami, Florida. He is a 5-time Grammy Award nominee and also a Grammy Award winner, the 2015 Latin Grammy Award winner in the Best Instrumental Album. He's been a friend for more than 30 years. Ed Calle joins us on the show. My man, I knew I was going to get you on this show sooner or later. It's great to see you.
Hi, Ed. It's great to see you. Thanks for the invite, and I'm honored to be on with you and spend time together with you.
There's so many stories that we have to tell, and I got to tell people that whether you're listening in the podcast or watching on the video, Ed enthralls me with so every time we talk, there's a different story about the times and the eras and the places that he has been, because Eddie is part of the Miami scene. And the Miami scene, I mean, we're talking now about the times when there was the Bee Gees, Gloria Estefan, the Tramps, so many of these people who began. But I want to start out at the beginning. On the Gold Coast Jazz Society website, it says, and I quote, "Obvious from the start, you were a natural at what you did." Did you feel like a natural when you were a kid? Was there that point where you picked up the instrument and said, this is it, this is exactly what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
It felt really good from the start, but I have to tell you, it was accidental. It was my father, as a kid growing up, a kid from Spain. My parents are from Spain, very strict. I'm born in Venezuela, but I came here, didn't speak English, and my father got a note from school saying, we have a band program, and or it asked the kid, do you want to play in music? So my father asked me, he said, would you like to play in band? And I said, I don't know. He said, what instrument do you like? I said, I don't know. He said, how about the saxophone? I said, okay. Because back then, you could say no to your dad, And from the very first day, it kind of made sense. It just sort of, it was something that I connected to. And being a kid growing up, I was pretty shy. So music really gave me an opportunity to communicate with people without having to tell them too much. And it became just a great friend. But I can tell you that it's not so much a natural thing, because you really have to work at it. You have to work at it a lot, and you have to work at it hard. But what a blessing that moment was in my life, because somehow my father must have known, and it's been a magical ride ever since, really.
Is it fair to say that we've reached a point where there is, well, maybe even back then to now, there is a greater bond between an audience and musicians than there is between an audience and athletes? In many instances, the athletes seem to be very standoffish anymore, but for whatever reason, performers, you always, not always, but most times you're able to go up to them, talk to them, and they want to be a part of that connection, yes?
Yes, we owe everything to the audience. That's why we work so hard. I'm not so sure that any of us practice music because we want to applaud for ourselves or entertain ourselves. We do it because we love music. But you love music because of the way that it affects people. It makes life better on the planet. The same thing happens with actors and painters and what you do. You know, you make our lives better. I've so many years, you know, listening to you on radio and television. You're a part of my daily life, and that is something that it's a very close friend that you have with you all the time. And if we forget those things about the audience, we lose. We're fortunate, especially those of us who are not the Taylor Swifts of the world, or the people who really have to be careful about audience, trampling them down. But those of us who are able to make music, jazz musicians in particular, who are able to do it in small clubs, and we have that proximity to people. A little bit like a hockey player when they come up to the glass. You know, if you're sitting up close.
So glad you mentioned hockey. Very good, Ed. Very nice. You know my love for hockey. I want to give you big chops for that, my man. Well done.
Yeah, I love hockey. I just can't skate. Being in Florida, that would have been hard back then. But it's that. I think it happens in baseball too, where people get to sit in the outfield and you actually get to communicate with an outfielder, or there's a bond there. And we've been lucky, those of us who have been around Miami for a long time, that we've gotten to know some of the athletes in the city as human beings and as people. And I have so much love and admiration for Dan and his family, not only for his playing on the field, but you know the work that they do outside. And when you get to know them as people, it changes everything. It makes them human. It makes them people that you admire, and you say, boy, I know them. I really love them. That's an important bond. Television has hurt us somewhat, because now you don't have that proximity to people that we used to have. But in the arts, fortunately, we still have that. We still have it on Broadway. We certainly have it in jazz clubs. You have it in unplugged settings. It's a beautiful moment when you get to know people, and somebody will come up. Like I've been fortunate enough to play for a while now. I've been on the planet for a while. I have a picture of Moses parting the Red Sea. We were there together.
So do I. As a matter of fact, I'm the guy that's right on the other side. I'm the one that's helping to push.
The three of us. But you know, you have people that come to your concert and you sign an autograph on their CD, and then I have their children come back and bring the same CD or the same record and have me sign it again. Those are really important moments in your life. They transcend the music. Now there's a bond there that is well beyond anything that could happen in terms of notes or music. And there's that love of the music itself. Music alters our chemistry. It alters our physique. You know, if we're depressed, we hear music, it inspires us. If music can make us sad, it can make us happy, it can make us nervous, as the films do so well. So it's what a powerful force, and a powerful force for good. Every once in a while they use it for evil. You know, they use it for torture and things like that.
No, not here.
Only when you have people who play instruments badly, then it's a weapon of mass destruction.
It's okay, I've heard some of the music these days, and trust me, it does seem like every now and then it is torture, but we're not going to go there. They're not appearing on this show. Ever. When I first got to know you, in the first album that I heard was the album that is listed as your first solo album, Double Talk, in 1996. However, here comes the truth, because while every place on the net you can find this as your first album. You've told me that this really wasn't, and we're going to get the first Ed Calle album. Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's going to come out now. There's an album called Night Games. It was on Epic Records. And to tell you the story in very short terms, I was on tour with Gloria and Emilio with the Miami Sound Machine.
Estefan, that is, people.
With
Estefan.
Estefan.
There you go, the big timers.
Emilio's like oh my gosh, he's like my brother, like my older brother. He's a guy who's really been a mentor for me and a friend all these years. Gloria, what a doll. She is just a great friend. They're just great people. You know, they're the kind of people that they really are. You're with them and you're on 8th Street and you have a cup of Cuban coffee with them and you realize that they're just like you and they really care about what you're saying and they listen and they're just great people. So I'm in this band and I'm playing with Emilio and we had a band that played at Raffles at a club here in North Miami 6 nights a week, and it's a great band. We had a lot of people that followed us, and one night a week we played jazz, Monday night jazz, and it was packed. And so I decided I was going to make a record of original music, and I asked the guys. We went into the studio, recorded it, and so I had this record. This is way before digital or anything, so this was we did it over at Criteria at the time.
What year was this?
This was 1980. I think it was 1986, because I had just finished college. I had just finished my master's in 1984, so I think it was 1986 we were recording. And so Emilio, I had cassettes of it, and I was going to print vinyl and do all that kind of stuff. I was going to be one of the first people to ever do an independent record, like full-blown that way. And Emilio says to me, he says, "Hey, I heard you made a record. Why haven't I heard it?" And I've never been one of those promotions people. I'm not like, "Hey, I did this, check it out." I said, "Emilio, it's a jazz record. What? You're not going to like it." So he said, "No, let me hear it." So I gave him a copy of the recording. He said, "Would you give me a week to take this? I want to take this to New York." I said, "Emilio, you can have a month. What do I? It's a jazz record. It's not like it's hot on the thing." So he went to New York, and 2 days later, I get a call from the office at Epic saying, "Hey, they want to offer you a record deal."
Hello.
Yeah, so he said, "What do you need?" I said, "Emilio, whatever it is, whatever you want. You know what to do. I don't know anything." So he took care. I mean, he literally got this record signed on Epic, just went in, they loved it. They put it out. That's the first album. But unfortunately, that album, because it was back in the ancient times, that was the last set of records that Epic made that didn't go on CD, on vinyl. And over time, it got sort of lost in the shuffle. I forgot all about it.
So it was released, actually, but it wasn't widely released?
Not only was it released, the day it was released, I was on tour with Emilio, and we were in Los Angeles. And I went to Tower Records, and there, I walk in the store, I swear, and there is my record next to George Benson's record. And I thought to myself, oh my God, what just happened? Because I've always thought of myself as some little kid from Venezuela who came over here and played the saxophone in public school. And the next thing I know, I'm at Tower Records in Los Angeles with a huge display. Dave Sanborn's playing it on the radio, saying nice things about it on his radio show. And it was one of those moments in your life where you realize, wow, all this practicing that I do, maybe I should keep doing it. So that's the first album. And I got so busy playing on everybody else's records, doing the tour with Gloria. In fact, I used to play some of the tunes from the record. I used to open the show way before she got, well, she was always big, but we were doing the show, and I'd go out and be almost the opening act. We'd play some of those tunes. The band that recorded Night Games, all the musicians, ended up becoming the Miami Sound Machine.
Help us save music in schools. Ed, this is something that a lot of people are spending a lot of time on these days, because there was a time when band was big in schools. It then disappeared, and now it's coming back, and there's people with a real effort to make sure that young kids, especially those young kids in some very difficult areas of the country, have music to be able to speak through, to be able to enunciate themselves. How important is it that we get music back in the schools and we spend that money and spend that time?
Music is the only time that we can, sports are a little bit like this, and that's why I'm such a fan of sports, but music is the only time where people can speak and communicate and listen simultaneously together, regardless of the size of the group. whether it's a 100-piece orchestra, whether it's a jazz quartet, everybody is speaking at the same time, all with one purpose, and that is to create a positive message that supports each other and is something that is respectful and beautiful for those with whom we are sharing that moment. That lesson in music is something that you can never forget, and we can never express enough how important it is, because it's the only time that we learn to speak and listen at the same time without shouting at each other or without being angry at each other. There is never room for that. We have a lot of fun. We can joke around. We can be aggressive in music. But there's never hatred. There's never that other stuff. But the power of music, can you imagine what so many of our children would be without sports? What would their lives be? What would the lives of people who were put on this earth because music is who they are? It's what they are. It's in their DNA. Charlie Parker was music. John Coltrane was music. They were not intended to be accountants or to be working, doing something else. We owe it to every child, not only in America, but in the world, to have that opportunity to find themselves, whether it's through painting, whether it's through acting, whether it's through being the class clown and being a comedic actor. I'm such a fan of Jennifer Aniston, who talked about being a clown in school. Well, I'm so thankful that she was and that she found her voice doing that. We owe it to our children to give them those things. History lessons are great and all that stuff, but there's nothing like music, and there's nothing like participating together in those environments. To me, I was so fortunate that I had people like Sandoval and Michael Brecker and Dizzy Gillespie, who I got to know, and my teachers, who basically showed me things that would have taken me a lot longer to learn. And as someone, especially because I'm Hispanic and there are so many kids around the world who are like me growing up, didn't have a lot of money, maybe didn't come from this background, and it's really important to help them make their journey shorter, to make it smoother, to help them find their voice as quickly as they can, and to share whatever you've learned. I've been fortunate my whole life that people have shared things with me without, people like the great Peter Graves, who's been there for me since day one. Tom Dowd, may he rest in peace, a guy who recorded John Coltrane's Giant Steps, was one of the people who built the atomic bomb, and who called me. I played on it.
A musician who helped build the atomic bomb.
That's right. He was a nuclear physicist who's a musician and produced Aretha Franklin. He was the guy who recorded Giant Steps, the Coltrane. He was the audio engineer. Became a friend of mine. We sat on the board together at the Grammys at Naris on the education side of things, and I've been able to learn from people like that, from people like you. I've had great athletes, sitting at a table, whether it's with Dan or with Emmett Smith or with people like that who share how they become who they become, and you realize that they're just great human beings who work really hard and they share things with you. We all have a responsibility to do that, and as a father and someone who is older, and you can tell by my hairline.
Don't tell anybody.
It's you want to share those things and help people learn, and especially in today's environment with technology and streaming. And my students at Miami-Dade, it's so important for me to get these kids who very often come from humble places, but are very talented and great kids, to help them identify where the revenue sources are and help them get those things in place, so that when they get a little older and they need that money and they've done things, all that stuff for them is going to add up. These royalties are going to add up. Right now they look laughable, but in the future, they laughed at radio too. They laughed at television. They laughed at the wheel. They laughed at we'd never go to the moon. They always laugh until the impossible becomes the normal.
You've got that sax next to you. I'm not going to let you get away without doing something.
It's as old as I am, by the way.
But we're almost out of time, and I want to make sure I get something in here before I get you to play a little bit.
Sure.
Out of all the people you've played with, and you mentioned Sandoval, you played with Sinatra, you've played with the Estefans, you've been with all these people. who made you the most nervous?
Oh my gosh. Probably as nervous as I've ever been was the day that the Bee Gees asked me to go play on their record Big. And I walk in, and there are the three brothers Gibb sitting on a couch next to each other. It's about as close as you can get to feeling like you're at Mount Rushmore with those guys alive saying to you, "Are you a good American?" It was frightening, and I never get nervous. It's really rare, but that's one of those moments where, because it's the Bee Gees. I mean, Saturday Night Fever, if there's a better record that's ever been made, I cannot imagine it. So I was really, really nervous with that. And
how did the session go?
It was great. It was great, and the solos on the album, and I've worked with Barry and Maurice and Robin since. May they rest in peace. The Mo was the very first one that I worked with. I went to his house to record, and what a nice man. They're all incredibly nice, humble people, but oh my gosh, the gift that they have given all of us through their music. And you're in the studio with them, and there's the Andy's guitar and Andy's picture, and those are life-changing moments. They keep you honest, they keep you humble, because there are very few people like that. Arturo is like that. To me, that's the top of the mountain heap. Michael Brecker, oh my God. I've been so fortunate. Sinatra, to play a solo on a Frank Sinatra record. Here's a kid from Westchester, grows up playing in school. Phil Ramone calls you up to play a solo on a Frank Sinatra record, and you're thinking to yourself, where else would this happen but in America?
I want people to think about that. Phil Ramone gets on the phone. One of the legends of music is on the phone with Ed. Go, "Hi, you want to come play for Sinatra?"
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, but talk about being nervous, and it's a track with Sinatra and Jobim and Antonio Carlos Jobim, "Fly Me to the Moon" on his duets album. But Phil, I had worked for Phil many times, and Phil and Tom Dowd, I was playing at a Grammy event, and I had my eyes closed as I always do, and I opened my eyes, and there's Phil Ramone and Tom Dowd standing about 6 inches from my bell, smiling, and those kind of moments are surreal in life, but they make you appreciate the beauty of music and the humility of musicians. The greatest musicians in the world are always the ones who are the most kind and the most supportive of what you do.
This, to me, is the best part of the show right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Ed Calle, one of the absolute masters at what he does.
This is the first thing I ever played a solo on in public. Hopefully my reed, we play old technology with wood, but...
Every chance I get, I still have. Let me see. I mentioned to you that I have Double Talk, and then the second album that I really got into, Sunset Harbor, was your second, but now we know is your third solo album. that we did. So for those who are looking to go back and really get some great music, I would heartily recommend both of them. Both of them were marvelous music, and there's others. And then there's Night Games, of course, that will be coming out. I'm going to watch for that. I mean, see now I'm jacked. I got a little new stuff from the Grammy Award winner, holding that Grammy in 2015, the Latin Grammy for Best Instrumental Album, and also 5-time nominee. Right?
That's right. That's right. Well, what an honor that is, huh?
Five-time nominee. I mean, just think about that. Just think about that, Eddie. It is a pleasure. By the way, of course, this will live forever thanks to technology. This will outlive us. This interview on video and audio. Give me an idea where you're performing coming up here, so that at least we can hopefully drive some people to your current performances.
Yeah, in May I'll be be all over the country. I'll be all over the South America as well. But I'll be at the Arts Garage in Del Rey. And then going down to Los Angeles and Paraguay, Uruguay, Santo Domingo. So I'm all over the place. Puerto Rico. So we're performing quite a bit. And they can go on the website. They can go on edcalle.com. And when I get a minute to update everything, we'll make sure they have it. So it should be easy to find. But we look forward to seeing people at the concerts. And I always spend time speaking with everybody. It's nice. It's just nice to meet people, and if they're nice enough to spend time with you, you want to spend time with them.
Please do. Please check out his music. edcalle.com is a way to find out more about it. I still search out Eddie and our friends Peter Graves and Dana Paul and all the rest. Boy, there's stories to be told there about places meeting up in small little dives.
Yes.
Many, many, many years ago. And that's sort of where I first found Ed, and I found all the others. Mr. Calle, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. I wish you the best. Please continue playing for a long time, because it's the best thing about it, man. You're out there, and I can always just pop in the iPod. Old guy with the iPod.
Yeah, me too.
And there's Ed Calle. There you go. Eddie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Eddie. And my best to everyone. Thanks for everything.
My pleasure always. Ed Calle, don't forget edcalle.com. During the show, for those of you who've been watching on video, we have been promoting our social media. For those of you listening on the audio podcast, don't forget, you can catch us there as well. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's at Berliner Speaks. Also, at Facebook at Berliner Speaks, you can leave your messages there. And if you want to go ahead and send us an email, you can do so at maninthearena@edberliner.com. We've been flashing that. But again, for those of you listening on the audio, don't forget, catch us on all the popular audio platforms as well. And the video is always on YouTube, our channel there. Catch it there. Thank you so much for joining us, and we thank Ed Calle. I'm Ed Berliner. This has been The Man in the Arena. And until next time, rock on, true believers.